Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, His Excellency, sir, Mr. Babatunde RAJI Fashola, SAN, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, Professor Oluwatoyin Temitayo Ogundepe, FAS, the Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Research, Professor Oluwole Familoni, FAS, the Chairman of the Advisory Board of the University of Lagos Business School, Distinguished Professor Babajide Alo, FAS, other members of the University of Lagos Management, the Provost Deans and Directors, and our participants. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Abraham Oshinobi, the Executive Director of the University of Lagos Business School. The University of Lagos Business School is an establishment of the University of Lagos, the university of first choice and the nation's pride. Our vision is to be a top-class business school, recognized globally for excellence and knowledge, capable of realizing business potentials. Our mission is to provide innovative business research and training, leading to capacity to deliver sound business and entrepreneurial success. The National Universities Commission, NUC, Resource Verification Team visited us on the 29th April 2019, and we got approval on the 22nd July 2019 to set up a business school, the University of Lagos Business School. And we equally received approval to commence the Executive MBA, Executive MPH, Executive MPA, and Executive Master of Risk Management programs. In August 2020, the University of Lagos Business School was admitted into the prestigious membership of BGA, Business Graduate Association, headquartered in London. As of today, the University of Lagos Business School remains the only business school in Nigeria to be so recognized. And I can assure you, in less than 3 months' time, the University of Lagos Business School will become the 4th business school in Nigeria to be recognized by the AABS, that is the Association of African Business Schools, headquartered in Sandton, South Africa. We are already having preliminary discussion with the AACSB Association to advance collegiate schools of business in Florida, as well as AMBA for additional global recognition. As a school, the University of Lagos Business School goes beyond the benchmarking of the criteria of research universities and strive to be relevant by providing practical solutions to day-to-day business, political, economic, social, and even health problems. Our curricula are designed to offer academic quality and professional relevance to the new generation of Nigerian and global business leaders. Our coursework is designed to help develop skills important to job success, such as idea development, analytical thinking, planning, and effective communication. At the ULBS are designed to help the new generation of business leaders to build professional skills in business, management, leadership, and other related fields. Our unique learning culture bridges the gap between theory and practice, preparing our participants, that is our students, to apply their knowledge and skills in workplace. Indeed, it's our policy at the University of Lagos Business School that no single lecturer or facilitator actually facilitates a single course. Facilitation involves an academician and at least one highly experienced industry practitioner. The idea here is that one can't offer what he or she does not have. This special seminar was therefore instituted to merge the gown with the town and remove the gulf between theory and practice. It is part of the coursework, as a matter of fact, for our participants, that is our students. In fact, they will need to write report and analysis on today's presentation. However, we believe strongly that since our mandate is to raise global leaders, we have extended invitation to those at the senior management level of our great university. Finally, we have been receiving support from the industry players, some of whom are already patronizing University of Lagos Business School for training and certification programs and research opportunities. It is uplifting, therefore, to have the opportunity to begin spreading good governance. It is something that is exigent in our economy and our country. And as our participants, the students, broaden their mindset, we will stand as the business school with something fundamental to offer, not only to Nigerians, but to the world at large. And who else is in the best position to offer this much needed insight other than a scholar come administrator par excellence, the identity of whom shall be revealed later after the great masquerade had been unmasked. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish every one of us a greatly rewarding time out here today. Thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you, Professor Abraham, the Executive Director of University of Lagos Business School. I want to join my voice to yours to welcome the Honorable Minister, Mr. RAJI Fashola. It is time now for us to hear from the Chairman of University of Lagos Business School Advisory Board, the distinguished Professor Alo. Over to you, sir. I think you are
yes,
muted.
I think I'm unmuted. I'm sure you can hear me now. Good morning,
yes, we can.
everybody. Let me especially welcome and recognize our friend and brother of many years, the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, distinguished Silk, Babatunde RAJI Fashola. Welcome once more, Your Excellency, to the University of Lagos Seminar Series. We are glad to join us, but we are not surprised. You are a friend of the University of Lagos for many years. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundipe, who is the chief host for this webinar. The Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academics with him, Professor Oluwole Familoni. The Executive Director of the University of Lagos Business School, able Professor Abraham Oshinubi, together with his able lieutenants. Our dear participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I see that this is a special seminar series which we are starting. This is the first one, and it's special seminar series for our students. We generally call them participants in our program rather than students. It is important for the University of Lagos Business School to maintain relevance both in the business sector and in the political space. While we are trying to slowly change current mindsets, we are aware that change will not occur overnight, but change must keep pace with the needs of the society. Today's highly competitive job market means an education that prepares students for work is more important than ever. Education must help learners to develop the skills which employers need. We at the University of Lagos Business School, that has been our thematic focus. We want to be able to prepare our students to be ready for the job market by providing executive degree and certificate programs relevant to today's working world, along with job search resources to uncover new career opportunities. We at the University of Lagos Business School stands ready to help the new generation of business leaders to consolidate their long-term success in business. Hence, this series will deal more with leadership in the business sector, leadership in administration, leadership in the political space. For a school like ours to truly make a mark upon the broad arena of business and management disciplines, we have to maintain, excuse me, we have to maintain our relevance to the community that we are serving. We have to cultivate their respect. We recognize that not only other academic institutions, but also of those in the corporate field and the everyday student require these attributes. In addition, a business school such as ours should act as a focal point, as a social changer, to which many questions pertaining to issues in business, management, leadership, and related fields can be referred with full confidence. It is an end of this that the University of Lagos Business School is at the forefront of capacity building in the key areas of management and leadership. Our executive director has alluded to the frontiers that we are breaking, and we are poised to even do more and more. We recognize that the importance of leadership cannot be overemphasized. Leadership motivates the people to a higher level of performance through their strong human relations. It is an important function of management, and therefore it helps to maximize efficiency and to achieve organizational goals. So managers must have traits of a leader. We are starting this morning, this seminar series, to inculcate in our students, our parents, the tenets of leadership, the tenets of management, and the tenets of professionalism in whatever space they find themselves. We're starting this morning with this series. We will have this series, and we're having His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of Works, starting off with us on leadership in the public sector. He has had considerable experience being former governor of an incredible state of excellence like Lagos. He will be leading the series of discussions. He will also be giving tips as to how leadership in the Nigerian public sector goes. After him, we intend to bring other leaders in the private sector, other leaders in the business environment, in the series that we are starting this morning. I welcome all of you on behalf of the board of the University of Lagos Business School. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. That was the chairman of our advisory board, distinguished Professor Babajide Alo, who had just given his opening speech. Thank you, sir. I hereby invite the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, the University of First Choice, and the nation's pride to formally inaugurate this special seminar series, Professor Oluwatoyin Temitayo Ogundipe, FAS. You have the floor.
Thank you, Professor Shinubi. I want to welcome my dear brother, the Honorable Minister, His Excellency RAJI Fashola, SAN. I want to publicly acknowledge your role during the time that the people want to manipulate the university system. Your silent role, I'm saying it publicly, so that people will know that you played an active role to make sure that we maintain the culture in Nigeria. Also want to recognize the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics and Research, Professor Familoni, FAS, the Chairman of the Advisory Board, my dear brother, Professor Babajide Alo, FAS, the former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Development Services, Professor Ogunshola, FAS, the Director, Academic Planning, Professor Chukwu, the Director, DLI, Professor Uche Udiani, and one of the, I would say, the oldest person on this MBA program that was attracted when I was the Dean of PG School over 13 years ago, and that is Wura Abiola. She's on this platform too. I was able to attract her to teach the MBA part-time and executive program that time. The former Dean of PG School, Professor Akimboye, the former registrar, Dr. Ipaye, and we have so many other people on board connected to this webinar platform. The talk that we are having now is very germane, because if you look at our country now, the problem of leadership, value, and sacrifice is very important. Where is the value? That is the question people are asking now. And the leadership, where are the leaders? It's another question people are asking now in the public sector and also in the political space. And what about the role of professionals in all this? I am glad that the first person to talk to us on this is the Honorable Minister, who, with his experience as a former governor of Lagos State, successfully completed his 8 years. And I remember that time, maybe you have forgotten, sir, that I was invited to label all the trees in Lagos State, all the trees in Lagos State. Anywhere you see any tree in Lagos State label, it was done during His Excellency's time. And it became something that we were able to present at the international level, showcasing Lagos State that despite the urbanization, they are still able to maintain the biodiversity, and they are still able to label and know the population of the trees that are in the urban and the rural areas. So today, I want to thank you for accepting our invitation. I want to congratulate the Executive Director, Professor Oshinobi, with his team. And I'm sure at the end of the day, we will have gotten well informed about what needs to be done to move our country forward. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We have heard from the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, the University of First Choice and the nation's pride. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, because of time constraint, and so that citation will not replace the key lecture that we are here for, I will not give full citation of our guest speaker. In any way, a king needs no directional annotation. The paraphernalia of office signals his arrival. Notwithstanding, permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to give his abridged profile. Born on the 28th of June, 1963, in Lagos, Mr. Babatunde RAJI Fashola, SAN, is a 1987 law graduate of the University of Benin, and after a 14-year stint in law practice, has had a public service career that is now 18 years long, and by the special grace of the Almighty God, it is still running. In that period of public service, he has served as Chief of Staff and Commissioner in the Lagos State Government, two-term Governor of Lagos State, and is now serving a second term as Minister of the Federal Government. having first been appointed in 2015 and reappointed in 2019. Babatunde Fashola, SAN, was called to the Nigerian bar in November 1988. His career as a barrister started in the law firm of Shofunde Osakwe Ogundipe and Begori, where he engaged in general litigation over diverse areas like company law, labor disputes, commercial disputes, criminal law, matrimonial causes, chieftaincy matters, land disputes, administrative law, and intellectual property, to mention a few. As an advocate, Mr. Fashola has distinguished himself. In August 2004, he was conferred with the rank of the Senior Advocate of Nigeria's highest legal distinction. He is the first member of the 1988 law school set to take the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and the second University of Benin Faculty of Law graduate to be so honored. As a public servant, he has served with no less distinction and dedication, and has been acknowledged locally and internationally for his dedication and service. Mr. Babatunde Fashola, SAN, is the recipient of the prestigious Stephen J. Sollers Award of the International Crisis Group in 2015 for his commitment and dedication to building a peaceful and vibrant society. His work to improve social and economic conditions in Lagos, including his role in preventing the Ebola outbreak from becoming a crisis in Nigeria. He was listed in 2014 as one of the 100 top global thinkers for 2013 by the Global Personality Assessment Organization, Lo Spazio della Politico, LSDP, based in Italy and Brussels. Time magazine has commended him for the overhaul of Lagos infrastructure, while the Economist magazine acknowledged him as a real good man and a governor who does his job well. Mr. Fashola, SAN, is patron, Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, member, Nigeria Bar Association, member, International Bar Association, fellow of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Notary Public of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Mr. Babatunde RAJI Fashola, SAN, is married to Dame Emanuela Abimbola Fashola, and they are blessed with children. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, it gives me great pleasure, privilege, and honor to present a legal luminary, a legal icon, a colossal pathfinder, a trailblazer, a shiny tower, a calculated administrator par excellence, an extremely disciplined, diligent, hardworking, highly cerebral, dedicated to duty and office, greatly resourceful, highly industrious personality, and an epitome of humility to crown it all, and with versatility, an unparalleled innovator, and a visionary, and a missionary with a clear and lucid vision. The Honorable Minister of Works and Housing of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, Mr. Babatunde RAJI Fashola, SAN. You have the floor, sir.
Good morning, and I hope you can all hear me. Let me start by thanking Professor Oshinubi for that rousing citation. And
Thank you, sir.
Let me also thank Professor Alo and all members of the University of Lagos community, but especially also the Vice Chancellor for the honor of inviting me to deliver this lecture. And I think that it is important to emphasize why I thank them. I think we started a relationship between the government of Lagos State then and the University of Lagos, a town and gown series. And that I found very important because, as Professor Shinobi has rightly alluded to, it was important to relate what happens in real life with what happens in the classroom. And to the extent, therefore, that this appears to be a continuation of that initiative, I feel truly honored to be invited to participate. Now, the invitation notifying me about the topic spoke about value creation in the public sector and the role of professionals. But I was also told that I could freely modify it. And I will speak to values, and there are two sets, really. There are two definitions of value, and I'm not going to go into them in any extensive manner. I will speak to the first one, of course, are principles and standards and things related to morality. That is not what I intend to deal with. That, of course, is the subject of another discussion, maybe by another participant, and so on and so forth. The one I seek to deal with today is the definition of values that relates to creating something useful, something worthy, and something important. And in modifying my topic, I have infused it with infrastructure, and to say that what I'll be speaking to today is how infrastructure creates value and the role that professionals have to play there. I think that this will be useful, I hope so. And I must say again that before I continue, let me apologize to the participants as they are described. I'm told they are not students. Let me apologize to the participants that I am not a class administrator, I'm not a professor. So if I disappoint any, blame Professor Shinubi and blame Professor Ogundipe. But what I want to do today is perhaps at the end of this, I would have unveiled a sector of Nigeria's economy or parts of it to our participants. It was a sector that, as a private law practitioner, I really didn't even have any knowledge about what was going on there. So we just saw roads being built and we saw houses being built. But there was a lot more happening. And that's what I want to share with us. I'm also told that this should be a 90-minute interaction, 60 minutes of which I'm supposed to speak and 30 minutes for interactions. But I will try and reduce my speaking time, hopefully to about 30, 40 minutes. So it's about 11:31. Hopefully by 12, I hope I'll be done so that we can have a longer interaction, which I hope will be then useful because my presentation will not address some of the concerns of the participants. So I have come up with this topic, how infrastructure creates value and the role that professionals have to play. And I hope we will all remember that. So I will go on then to the meat of it. In December of 2020, I was invited to a university, Al Hikmah University in Ilorin, Kwara State, and I was speaking to fresh graduates. And I was asked to speak to them about the prospects of entrepreneurship and employment after university education. And I was asked to speak in the context of what the post-COVID era held for them. Although those were fresh graduates, just leaving school, and although these are postgraduates who have done one graduate course, I think that there are parallels there. And so that's where I choose to start, just to share some of what I told them. And essentially, what I told them was that the relationship between university education and what you do after life is a function of many things and how you understand your environment. So I took them through some history in order to locate where I think Nigeria is today. Because we all talk about Nigeria being difficult, Nigeria being this, and then the glorious days, and perhaps in another 30 years, today will be the glorious day, but I hope not. I think that our best years are ahead of us. But I try to trace Nigeria's history for those of them who did not know it, and how in the 60s, what we were concerned about was about keeping the unity and managing our diversity. And I say that as a very serious challenge that this country was able to withstand. And we are in a phase, unfortunately, where those issues seem to be resurging. But happily, the web of diversity is getting even stronger than it was in the 60s. And Professor Alo, Professor Budikwe, and some of the more older members of this conversation will remember in the 60s where it was unthinkable to even marry across ethnic groups. It was unthinkable. And when those things happened, they used to be on the front page of Nigeria's university. That was a challenge Nigeria faced there. So that those who converse about today's Nigeria must understand the challenges we have overcome. And then we went through a period of the 70s to the 90s. That was a period when this country was, in a manner of speaking, stupendously rich. The prices of oil just went to the roof. We had fought a war and had come out of that war, and there was almost a period of unprecedented development. The national plans were being executed, bridges were being built, buildings were being constructed, whole new towns were being built. We built so much infrastructure that we hosted the world. And those who didn't witness that period missed a great experience in Nigeria. But I'm sure that greater experiences will come back. And I've traced that point to even when development was going on, all this development that I speak about was going on, right? People were still agitating. There was an agitator on the front burner. They wanted the military out of their lives because it was a military government. So it didn't matter how rich we were still unsatisfied. The military should go. And then, so I moved it on from there to the millennium. And when, okay, now the military is gone, we have democracy. How do we keep that democracy? Today, from the millennium to today, the big issue now that we have this democracy, in spite of its challenges, how will it make life better for us? Now, and I say here, as I said to them then, democracy does not guarantee good governance. And just remember that democracy doesn't guarantee good governance. And those of us who are students of history will understand this when you look at what democracy is concerned about. It's simply concerned about freedoms. It's concerned about the choice of the majority. And we know that the majority can also be a tyranny of numbers. They can be wrong. And so, but what democracy says is that just give it to the most popular person who the majority choose. Whether it will be a good governor, it will be a good president, it will be a good university vice chancellor. If the majority have chosen him, then so be it. It can't be a king who chooses him. But once the majority have chosen him, abide by what you get. But we now have a problem. how do we make the decision of the majority work for everybody, not for only the majority? And that's why I say it doesn't always guarantee good governance, but it can deliver it. So, and I say to them that as we were there, the problem for all of us, those students I spoke to and those I'm speaking to today who are participants, the problem for all of us is that it requires a new set of champions. The kind of champions that this faculty is trying to produce. Champions who have theory and champions who have the benefit of experience. So, and I close that presentation by saying to them that the goal of creating students must not just be about employment, because that's what they asked us to speak about. Not just about employment. It's actually about creating prosperity. And so that is the background to the conversation I want us to have today. And that's why I say that that last paragraph about creating prosperity is what all of us as professionals must be concerned about. And this is where I merge that my presentation with today's presentation. One was talking about employment, but I say let's talk about prosperity. But in creating prosperity, everybody has a role. And all of us as professionals have an even bigger role to play. And so my first point in this presentation is that we can only add value. And remember, I spoke about the value I'm speaking about, something important, something worthy, something useful, that we can only add value with a recognition of the fact that Nigerian economy has changed, the way the global economy has changed. Today, the only reason why you and I could have this conversation is that technology has provided this interface. 30 years ago, this was probably not possible. So the global economy has changed, Nigeria has changed with it. And therefore, the professional capacity must go where the economy needs that capacity most. And I will then link that now to our current need. The next paragraph. I'm trying to show how our population has grown from 50 million in the 60s to 200 million today. So if our numbers are growing, it must suggest that we need to do something, not just necessarily about population management, but also about the key. And that graph just shows you our population growth, the top one, and the lower one shows you the growth rate, averaging 3%, now suggesting that it's about 2.5%. And the question to then ask ourselves is, has our infrastructure grown at 3% or more? Has it grown at the rate at which our population has grown? Now, the best way I like to describe this, is to use the human body. So all of us just flash back that when we were teenagers, we used to have our favorite jeans and our favorite t-shirt and perhaps our favorite shoes. But our bodies have grown and our bodies have changed. So just imagine trying to wear now. So let's imagine that Professor Shinubi wants to wear the same set of jeans that he wore when he was 17. Or let's ask Professor Allo if he can get into the jacket, the blazer he used to wear as an undergraduate today. Because his body has changed. And maybe Professor Ogundipe has not changed significantly in stature. He might squeeze himself into his jacket, but I bet you he will be very uncomfortable if he manages to do so. Be very uncomfortable. And that's the analogy. So when you look at it, when were the last times in all our cities across our countries that we built new and iconic highways? And I say this in the context of what happened in Nigeria in the 70s, post-war. there was a three-pronged program called the 3 R's: reconstruction, reconciliation, and I don't quite remember the third one. But reconstruction was at the heart of that prosperity. And that's when all the Festacs, the National Theatre, the Third Mainland Bridges, and so on. That's when Abuja was conceived. All the water facilities, hydro dams, and everything across Nigeria were being built simultaneously. So if you look at the next slide, you will see the Third Mainland Bridge, built in 1990. So when was the next time that Lagos had a new bridge? It was not until 2010 or 2011 when we built the Lekki Bridge. And now the state government has built another flyover in Agege, and Lagos is probably an outlier in that sense. So the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway was built in 1978. And you will see the Niger Bridge built in 1965. So we are now building the second Niger Bridge from 1965. I was 2 years old then. But I have the privilege to now work with President Buhari to deliver a second Niger Bridge almost 60 years later. So the Abuja-Kano Road was dualized in 1991 during the Babangida era. So you will see that there has been a mismatch. So if the population is growing without corresponding expansion in infrastructure, as I showed in our analogy, Professor Ogudipe will be very uncomfortable in that his teenage jacket. And that partly explains some of the pain we are feeling. And let me remind some of us, the Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos was built, I think, in 1975. It was the biggest, or one of the biggest on the entire continent, and one of the best. But the terminal building, we were told then, would be expanded. At the time it was built, London Heathrow, I think, was at Terminal 2 or Terminal 3. London Heathrow has reached Terminal 5. So we are just building the Terminal 2. But the number of people who flew then is just a small percentage of the people who now want to fly. And that animates the discomfort we all experience now. There's nothing wrong with the runway. It's the terminal building, the expansion must continue. So today's public sector must rise, in my view, to the challenge by responding to the point of pain. And one of the points of pain is providing life-defining infrastructure. I want to emphasize that as professionals, the immediate point of pain is to provide life-defining infrastructure. It is hard work, but it is necessary to create prosperity. So when on June 12, June 12, 2019, President Buhari made a declaration that he was going to lift 100 million people out of poverty over 10 years. I understand that to mean that investment in infrastructure were going to be a major part of achieving that. And I will show you why I took that view. And I invite all the participants to do a random check on any search engine and dig up all the inaugural speeches of governors, prime ministers, presidents from across the world. I doubt if you will find one speech that does not commit to infrastructure. I doubt if you will find one. Just 2 days ago, the United States president gave his first press briefing. And one of the things he said was that America's infrastructure was broken. On every 5 miles of road in America, according to him, not me, on every 5 miles of road in America, there were potholes. And so they have to invest in rebuilding 160-something thousand kilometers of their road network. This was 2 days ago. And you can search that on any search engine. You will see his press conference and listen to it. He also said they had over 200,000 bridges, many of which were physically now in danger of collapse. But it's not the risk that I want to speak about. It's the connectivity across all fronts while leaders commit to infrastructure. And this is the meat of the matter. So when President Buhari was making that declaration,
we can lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years. This administration is laying the foundation and taking bold steps in transforming our country and liberating our people from the shackles of poverty. We can lift.
Now, I've gone back to that video so that all of us can remember. Many presidents, governments have committed to the eradication of poverty. I hope you can still hear me. I've committed to the—
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear, sir.
Okay, what I found most instructive about that speech, that part of the speech, was that in my own lifetime, I don't remember a president who has come out to commit to a journey and a number of people and say, we are going to do this. I don't remember any president who has said that. There are many poverty alleviation, poverty this. And I think that this business school must also be concerned about how to give life to the full impact and intent of that speech. What does it mean, and what should it deliver? Does it mean just employing people? Does it mean creating value? And it is to creating prosperity. Remember, I spoke about prosperity. So I think that instead of fighting poverty, I will spend my energies in creating prosperity. Because when you are prosperous, you are less likely to be poor. And for me, the messaging about positivity as against I am fighting poverty, I would rather spend my energies building prosperity. So let's see where this all started. So I'm sharing with you the budgets of Nigeria for the Federal Ministry of Works. Federal Ministry of Works, the budget of Nigeria. But let me set a context for that. The federal government has, no, let me go back. Nigeria has 200,000 kilometers of road. Nigeria, 200,000 plus kilometers, plus or minus the new ones that are being added. But there exist 200,000 kilometers by data. The federal government is responsible for 35,000 kilometers out of that network, 35,000 kilometers. The remaining 165,000 belong to the states and local governments. So I'm talking about your street road, I'm talking about your local government road, and I'm talking about the interstate road, which are our own responsibility. So our responsibility are largely the roads that connect states. The state government and the local government are responsible for the roads that take you from Yaba local government to Victoria Island, largely. Plus or minus, ignore the bridges. And also historical, because the federal government used to be the seat of the, Lagos used to be the seat of the federal government. But if you look at this budget, so see what the administration inherited. That was the last budget of the previous administration in the top left corner, 2015, 18 billion naira for all of Nigeria's roads. In that year, the budget of Lagos State for roads, when I left, was 70 billion. But the government of Nigeria left 18 billion to do Nigeria's roads. What has changed? If you go to the sixth column, that budget, first in 2016, this administration budgeted 260 billion. And from then on, 274, 356, 223, and now 227. You will see the columns about how much was released. And that's the column that is instructive in how much actually finally went out. Total release first to fourth quarter. And you will see how much has gone out into Nigeria's roads, less than $1 trillion in quantum from budget. there are other sources of funding which are not necessary for our conversation. But this is just to show you that infrastructure is so defining. If you don't invest in it, we don't create prosperity. Now, if you look at this next slide, which is from the other slide, it shows you the total of the budgets. I've accumulated the budget. And let me make this point very clear, especially to a business school. Oftentimes people say, oh, they are taking the budget. You can't take a budget. Budget is not cash. Budget is a statement of expenditure. Not a few public servants still conflate the two. Budget is a statement of what you want to spend. Whether you actually spend it or not depends on whether you can raise it from your revenue sources, taxes, crude oil income, levies, private partnership investments. Those are the aggregation of what you finally spend. But this is what you set out to go and do. So budget has an expenditure side, and I'm showing you the expenditure side, but it also has a revenue side. Oftentimes we focus only on the expenditure side. But let me leave you with a few numbers before you go. The total of what we have budgeted over 6 years is nothing compared to what the United Kingdom is budgeting over the next 5 years, 2020 to 2025. They are going to spend 27 billion pounds. 27 billion pounds. Remember that figure. Now let me highlight it. That means that they will be spending 5.4 billion pounds a year on construction of roads and bridges. If you do the math at 525 naira to 1 pound, they'll be spending 2.8 trillion naira a year because they are richer than us. But in spite of what they have built, they are building more. So this is a global game. Now, that is only one half of their story. They are committing 500 million pounds to patching of potholes nationwide, 500 million pounds, in addition to the 5.4 billion. So they will be spending 262 billion naira a year just patching potholes. I wish we had that kind of money to give to FEMA, because if you look at my own 2020 budget, 227 billion, that includes FEMA's budget. I'm nowhere near what they would even spend to patch potholes. And that's why every time I say about this government that we are doing a lot more with a lot less. So I now want to go to the value chain activated in this process of construction. So, and let me set the context for that value chain to just let you know what we're doing with that little money I've shown you that we are budgeted and the allocations. Today, this country has, out of that 5,000 kilometers, and not all of it needs to be built afresh. Some are just finished, some are starting, some are old that need repair. But we are intervening now on 13,000 kilometers of road simultaneously now. We have 13 bridges under maintenance. We have 43 roads under construction in federal tertiary institutions because they are owned by federal government. The internal road network has been left unattended to for a few years. And Professor Ogundipe, this might sound like news to Charing news to, he's been conversing with me about how to do Unilag route. I told him we will get there soon. But we're going and trying to ensure that we spread it across. And then, so these roads I'm talking about, not the university roads now, the 13,000 kilometers plus, they range from 50 kilometers. There's a road that links Kano to Maiduguri, which is almost finished now. It's 560 kilometers of dual carriageway. And on the housing side, you will see what we're doing, 4,540 units under construction. Then we're maintaining existing infrastructure, federal secretariats. They've been left unattended for a bit. So there's now a national infrastructure maintenance program. And that itself is another conversation, because people say, oh, maintenance culture. There is no maintenance culture. It's a maintenance economy that is necessary. It's not a culture, it's an economy. It provides prosperity, it adds value, it creates work. But that's a different conversation. And I just mentioned that there is now a national rail project. Some of you are aware of it. Lagos Ibadan is almost finished. Abuja Kaduna was completed by this administration. We're now going from Kaduna and we'll link the north and the south. Some of the airport buildings are now being completed. And the next slide just shows you a snapshot of some of what is going on. So the new terminal buildings, the rail, Abuja, and so on and so forth. But I can only tell you that there are more bridges being built. There's a bridge being built across the River Benue to link the north and the south, to reduce the journey time from the east of Nigeria to the federal capital. It will cut journey time by 4 hours. The bridge is finished. It's just the road link now. There's a bridge also being built to link Taraba and Benue across the Ibi River, the Benue River, the Ibi Bridge. There's also a bridge also being built in Cross River, a new one, Ikon Bridge. And there's a bridge that just awarded in Plateau State, the Lantang Wase Bridge. Then there's a bridge we're trying to reconstruct. It was damaged during the Civil War, and nothing really was done to attend to it across the Imo River. But those are conversations for another. Just to highlight and illustrate to you, these are national housing programs in 34 states. You see the one for Imo, Osun, Jigawa, Kaduna, and so on. Just to graphically illustrate some of the things I've tried to summarize for you. The several hundred projects that I spoke to you about, the special projects unit, this is going on across Nigeria, delivering primary schools, delivering primary healthcare centers, providing illuminations, solar street lights, providing water. One of the touching ones, and a lot of boreholes. You will see a motorcycle being washed. You will see a water tank. Before this water tank was created, and this is not where we want to be, but it's a step that has been taken. People had to go and wash by a river. People had to wake up in some places, walk 2-3 kilometers to a river, and just sinking a borehole will make the difference. These are the parts of Nigeria that many of us never get to see. I feel truly privileged to have seen all of this, but it's work that is going on. So now, how does this create value? And this is the thing. Everywhere we go and build a road, the land adjoining that road and immediately accrues value. The value goes up by 30 to 40%. This is not me. One, ask the estate surveyors and estate valuers. They will tell you, every time we build a road, we provide infrastructure, the adjoining land immediately increases in value. So if you own land and we build a road by it, we have given you value. Because, and the practical sense is, what is the cost of a land that has no access road and the cost of a land that has a third road? They don't price at the same price. So every time government builds a road, without seeing you physically, they provide value to you, whether it's a state government, or a local government, or a federal government. Then there's an increase in economic activities. And I go around, I see food vendors. Now, let me demonstrate to you or share with you what I see. Food vendors that I spoke to across different sites, a plate of food for each worker on the site sells for 250 naira. I'm not sure how many of us experience it. At that site, every site across Nigeria, the price ranges between 200 to 250. And some of the women I spoke to, especially who provide this food, said they make 5,000 naira a day. And I said, is that everything? No, they say after they have removed the money to cook the food, they are taking home extra 5,000 a day. That's 30 times 6 days. The laborer on site, no skill, just pure energy, labor, 3,500 a day. Multiply that by 6. Then there is a supply chain of building materials that when I was a private sector lawyer, I never knew existed. From laterite to granite to diesel to even water tankers, bitumen, asphalt. And I will try and share some of it. And then all of the things we see on roads, lane marking, highway signage, electrical fittings are another set. This is different from construction. There are different special services as subcontractors. So this is where the money goes. So it's not that when you hear 200 billion, one contractor keeps 200 billion. It's not possible. Contractors keep only their plant and equipment. They don't store laterite, they don't store cement, they don't store bitumen, they don't store all the components. When you pay them, they order from their suppliers. Those suppliers could be you and I. Now, I've just shared here the kind of jobs that we are documenting coming out. Not Central Zone, for example, when we went just on road to see what was going on, we found at least 9,000 direct jobs at that time. So if you multiply this by the 6 zones, you have a sense of what is going on. In the last few years, some of you may have noticed or may not have noticed what we call the route assurance signs. Those signs that tell you how far you are to your destination, how many kilometers you have to travel. They were not on Nigeria's routes when this administration came. But we've made a point of duty to slowly start restoring them back because we see them in other parts of the world. The story of why they were not there is another one for another day. But the story is that they are reimagined. If you travel across Nigeria, you will have begun to see them. They were not there 5 years ago. But what it speaks to is that we have installed 1,575 of these signs. We have employed 239 local companies who were subcontractors, making money installing it. And they have employed 16,000 plus people. Because the process of design and installation of each sign employs at least 5 people. And these are all the signs across Nigeria. And we are still producing more. These are items of value. You now know from there that you are 12 kilometers to Shagamu, or you are 10 kilometers to Kano, and so on and so forth. Now, I go and say that infrastructure is a critical pillar for creating prosperity. And I've shown you how it does this. I won't take too much time. I'll discuss some of it. The value chain it employs and the housing projects that we have. I want to just speak to 2 examples. There's something called laterite, and I will use the street level word, that red soil. You can't build a road, at least in Nigeria and in many parts of the world, without it. It's the foundation of your road. Whether you are using concrete road. So the Apapa-Oshodi road, which is being built with the Dangote intervention using tax credit. At one time when I visited, they had used 5,000 trucks of laterite, 5,000 trucks of laterite, just buried under this to make the foundation of the road. Now, we price each item, each truck at 30,000 naira. The contractor is not interested in that. It's a subcontract. He gives it to Oshinubi to go and supply. But if you multiply 5,000 trucks by 30,000, you get 150 million naira. That's a subcontract, one person or groups of persons. But it doesn't end there. Oshinobi as a subcontractor or Professor Alo as a subcontractor does not have land, but he has a subcontract. So he must go into the rural area because that's where you mine laterite. The landowner there has no capital, nothing, no equipment. He just has the land. And I want to take laterite. He collects 6,000 naira from every truck that drives him a day. 6,000 per truck. Is that person getting value? This is happening in Nigeria every day. So every time you see that truck, then the person who got the subcontract does not own trucks. If he goes to buy truck, his profit is wiped out. So Professor Shinubi goes to Professor Ogundipe, who has trucks, and say, I want to rent your trucks. So they agree. So Professor Ogundipe collects out of that 30,000. Don't forget that the landowner has collected 6,000 to mine laterite. Professor Ogundipe also collects. So Professor Shinubi has spent 11,000 out of his 30,000. Then he pays his driver and labor. At the end of the day, maybe we make 8,000 to 7,000 naira per truck. And this is how money is shared. But it was one contractor that we gave a contract. But it needs all these people to play their roles. Let me go to another item of conversation in our construction world. Diesel. All those big trucks, machines, plant, and equipment need one fuel, largely diesel. So one of our contractors was so happy when we paid him 1.2 billion naira. And he was so happy. We had been owing him. And he came to share his experience with me that his bank was going to call his credit because there was a supplier he was owing. And that supplier was being owed 800 million naira. One supplier, was being owed 800 million naira. So that meant that by giving that contract to one person, we created a credit economy of 800 million naira worth of diesel was supplied on credit. 800 million naira worth of diesel is 3.2 million liters of diesel. So that's one contract. So let me go back to that 13,000 kilometers that I told you we're building, all what we're building. We are managing 700 plus contracts today. So imagine 800 million in 700 places. And I think those examples will suffice. Now, who are these professionals? Because we all talk about the big construction companies, but beneath them is a layer of perhaps unseen professionals doing a lot of work. So first thing, before there is even a contract to build a road, there's an agreement. That's why it's called a contract. So lawyers are involved. We can't pay any contractor any money unless we have security. So we must go and get us a bank guarantee. Bankers also cream off this because they don't give the guarantee for free. Then architects are involved in design, quantity surveyors in costing, then engineers and so on. And it might interest you that there's a professional group that I even didn't know they existed in Nigeria. They are professional divers. We use them to do underwater investigation and underwater welding of most of our bridges. So I told you we are maintaining 37 bridges. We're using divers. Their work is unseen because we are driving on the bridge. We don't see what they do. And so you will see all the way down the estate valuers. You can't build unless you pass through somebody's land. From then on, compensation issues start. So we have to value crops, we have to value land, we have to pay compensation before we pass through. And I just go again now just to highlight the other classes of professionals. I've spoken about quantity surveyors, design consultants. We also have supervision consultants. So after we give the contract to Professor Shinubi, we must employ Professor Alo as a supervision consultant to ensure that it's building according to design. And all of these are services we pay for every day. But before we even use all these materials, no material goes into a road unless it is tested. So we have laboratories. Today, we have 67 laboratories nationwide, employing 1,702 professionals. We have a soil foundation laboratory. So it's not any laterite that can be used. It must be tested to meet the specification of humidity and water. We have steel laboratory to test the quality of steel going into the road so that we ensure that the road lasts. We have concrete and aggregates laboratory to test the strength of concrete. We have asphalt and bitumen laboratory to test the quantities and the properties of the asphalt and bitumen, and also the temperature before it is applied. So these are items and areas where there is value being created by unseen professionals. And those who know don't tell the others that something good is happening there. I just use this table to again illustrate what I'm talking about, and you will see the quantities there. If you look at the fourth or so column, the number of truckloads. So I've just talked about 5,000 trucks of laterite. This is one company, just for last year, doing 43,000 truckloads of different materials. So trucks don't move by themselves. They move by drivers. And they need fuel, they need lubricants, they need tires. And if you look at the last column to the right, the number of subcontractors that I spoke about, those are their different suppliers. And if you look at the bottom of the slide, the main contractor has paid out 1.6 billion to his subcontractors, 23 subcontractors. And that's why I spoke about all leaders of the world focusing on infrastructure. It's the most legitimate way to distribute wealth in a society. Most legitimate way, building. So I won't belabor these other slides. I will just try and go to my slide 35. Spent now 45 minutes, and I'm just going to try and close here so that we can interact. And so I say here, as I said in the beginning, I just wanted to lift the veil from the construction sector so that people can get a sense of what is going on there. I hope that I have revealed or emphasized some possibilities for those who are interested in this sector, where you can add or contribute your own quota and add value. As I said, maintenance is a subject for another day, maintenance and facility management. It employs more people than construction. It's another subject. So when people call it a culture, I say it's not a culture. It's an economy that we have started to build. So that's why I told you about maintaining 25 federal secretariats. And we are hoping that it will spread to schools, it will spread to hospitals, it will spread to courtrooms, it will spread to university campuses, and it will get to homes. So I close by saying that as our population grows, the need for the expansion of our infrastructure is an unending job. It must continue. And this is where jobs will be created. This is where there will be even distribution of wealth and also improvement in the quality of life. So I say on that matter that there are vast and sustainable opportunities, and they can be mutually beneficial for each one of us and for our nation. So I am done. I just want to highlight a few slides because people ask me, oh, why is it taking so long to build this road? This video shows you the level of excavation that is involved in reconstructing the road. So all this laterite is now useless. So it has to go. So we are removing them. The next slide, this is a road on the road to Adamawa. Now, this slide is from Lagos Ibadan. So you will see the old ash being excavated. This is why we have to close some sections so that you can divert to other sections. So we work in sections of 5 to 10 kilometers each way. And we are building 127 kilometers through. We can't lock down the road. So you will see all the asphalt that is being removed. And then the next slide will show us what is happening. You see, that's the asphalt. And this has to be done in sections. Then you see, it's going into a truck. You can see that truck is being lifted into the truck. And then the truck moves it away. And then move forward. If we move to the next slide, you see the excavation still going on and setting out. You will see the sign. Now, you see this truck now bringing the new laterite. They were tipping the new laterite. And this is what we do in sections. And we have to do this on 27 kilometers. And everyone have to drive through this. And we have to manage it. So we have to first fill up to the level. And you see all of these people here are the professionals I was talking about. Surveys, and you see the concrete being cast, the drainage being set. And then as you move forward, you see now it's being put in place. You can see the laterite now forming. They now have to fill to this level before they start adding the crushed stones with the cement mix to stabilize it. Then, and that's the crushed stone mixed with cement now being put on it before the binder course comes. And then the last course is the wearing course. So the section of each road is about 600 or 700 millimeters thick. And we have to do that over 3 lanes, over 127 kilometers on both sides. So as you drive on that road, every portion where you enjoy a smooth drive is the portion we have finished. So it's not a city road where you lock it up, then you build it 2 kilometers, then you come and cut tape. By the time we finish, some of the ones we started are already in need of maintenance. And this is how it is all over the world. Because roads are depreciating assets. That's why the final cost on top of it is always called the wearing cost. It will wear. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think my task is done. And thank you for your attention.
Oh, thank you, sir. Round of applause, round of applause, round of applause, round of applause. Thank you so much, sir. I am sure that every one of us have been equally impacted upon. We have learned so much. I am particularly enthused that those signs are coming back. And I've learned one new word today, one new terminology, concerning maintenance economy. Thank you, sir. God bless. Now we quickly go into the question and answer section. This will be moderated by our DBA director and our MBA coordinator, Dr. Simeon Ifere. Participants, I hope you've sent in your questions already. Yeah. Dr. Ifere, kindly take over.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I was scanning through the chatted questions, and I saw some expression of elation about, well, we didn't expect anything less than that, about the rich information you have provided and the excellence in delivery. But I have a few questions for you. So I'll take them one after the other. I'll just take the question, you answer, then we'll take the next. The first question here is, what approach do we adopt to get more kilometers of new road, not maintenance now, new road, out of our mega resources? There has to be an approach. We know we're constrained by resources, but what do we do to get more from the mega resources that we have?
Well, the first thing that I would say to that is where I ended, that roads are depreciating assets. So the first thing to do is to reconstruct what you have. First, improve its usability, if there's such a word, improve its efficiency, reduce the stops, the potholes, and the failures. And so that's what we're trying to do first and foremost. So we're focusing on those roads that existed. And if this sets the context, people used to sleep on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, on Benin to Shagamu. The road just gives way. And that's no longer happening, even though we haven't finished. So that's the first thing we should do. As our population grows through urban planning, then we can have futuristic plans that a new town is coming here in 10 years. We can plan the route to that place.
Thank you. The next question has to do with the Ibadan-Lagos Express Road that you just mentioned. That road has become a topical issue in the country, especially for those that apply that road. What exactly is the challenge you're having on that road?
The main challenge was simply funding. The main challenge was simply funding. In 2006, the federal government handed that road to a company called Boycott to raise the funding to construct that road. That road requires over 200 billion naira to execute. The question we should all have asked ourselves is that which bank will lend 200 billion naira to any individual in Nigeria to build a road? Which bank has ever done it? So when we create some of these highfalutin PPPs and all of that, we must relate them to the reality of the economy. The banks may lend money to you to build a factory, but a road, the economics must be great. So that was the first problem. So nothing happened on that road until 2012, when the federal government then terminated that concession. They now created another PPP, this time awarding the contract to the contractors, Julius Berger and RCC, in 2 sections, and then got a group of people in the private sector to say, go and raise the finance. This time it was not an individual, it was a group of people, institutions. A bank called the Infrastructure Bank, Leadway Assurance was involved, there were pension funds. But what then happened? The old concessionaire whose contract was cancelled then went to court to say, I am suing for breach of contract. I want an injunction to stop those people from financing the road over which I'm suing. So between 2006 and 2015, that's where we were. That's about 10 years. So there was no funding until I became minister. And that was when the president said, look, minister, I hear there are court cases on this matter. I want to know where they are, and I want your advice about the best way to deal with this. And my recommendation after meeting with all the parties was, look, we don't want these court cases. Mr. President, I recommend that take over your road back. Even if it's 1 kobo that you have to put in it, put it so that construction can go on. No court will give an injunction that you shouldn't construct your road. And so the first funding that went into that road was 25 billion naira in 2016. In 2017, you might recall, I had a public engagement disagreement with the legislators when they cut the budget of that road to 10 billion after we had made such a big start. But now all of that is in the past because there's now a presidential infrastructure development fund made up of our dividends from the Nigerian LNG project and recoveries from money from the Abacha era, now dedicated to funding this road, the second Niger Bridge, and the Abuja-Kano road. So that's why you are seeing progress now. So the main problem was funding.
Well said. Okay. The third question here is whether there is any plan to use rail as an alternative means of transportation of goods, apart from human beings.
Certainly there is. My colleague, the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, is working on restoring what used to happen in Nigeria. Our fuel, our coal, all our cargo to the port used to be moved by rail before. I saw it as a child. So it's almost done. The link from the Lagos-Ibadan to the Apapa port is now under construction. So what we hope to see as we go forward is that in the way that we move from rail wagons to road tankers, we will reverse back from road tankers to rail wagons. Because all the NNPCs, Unipetrol, used to own those wagons. They are still in Apapa there. I visited them when I was governor. So we will get back there. And really, for those who might just be, excuse me, who might just be interested, the real income that sustains rail comes from cargo, not from passengers. Rail all over the world is not profitable on the passenger side. So it is cargo that supplements the income.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next question is about whether there is a strategy to ensure sustainable infrastructural development. After your time, I don't know if what can be done to put what you are doing on irreversible paths. Is there something you can do to ensure that infrastructural development is sustained after your tenure?
Nothing made by man is irreversible. Nothing. Everything that man can make can be reversed. And but I would just urge us never to be afraid of you. We must just embrace it with courage and with conviction. And I hope that some of the people who are participating here will appreciate the importance of their own role as professionals and seek to come back to government. That's the real deal. If we populate our public space, now that we are now becoming more conscious about how impactful it is on our life, if we put our first in there, I would not be afraid of the future. There will be a lot of people who would even change what we have done, but they will change it not for the worse, but for the better.
Can this be driven by some structural changes and long-term commitments?
Oh yes, I mean, there must be a visioning about how tomorrow will be and how you want to shape it to be. So we have just finished implementing an economic recovery and growth plan, which is a 4-year document. We are developing another 10-year document. You may have heard my colleague, the Minister of State, the Minister of Finance, speaking yesterday at one event about national planning and why it is important to involve the state governments because we are a federation. So state governments must be involved in any national plan that the federal government foresees. And from the national plan that we all agree, each state can drill down at its local level to implement its own share. So if the federal government is building Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, for example, how do you connect to that highway from Ajebo? How do you connect from Ishawo or wherever onto that highway? That's a local problem. And you must see that, oh, there's a road. The local government must build the one that goes to the state must build the one that goes to the federal. And Brazil is a very good example of this. If you drive through Brazil, your taxi driver will tell you that bad road is federal, but the state has built its own. It will tell you, oh, this new highway is federal, but it's the local government that has not connected us to it.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. There's a personal question here. Not my question, I mean something that has to do with you as a person. what accounted for your, I don't know whether you have transiting from private sector career to public sector?
I was conscripted. I must confess, I didn't like the private sector and the public sector as a young man. Most of the people who left school in my time in the 80s always wanted to work in the private sector. It was the attractive place to be. But I say so now with the benefit of hindsight, we were just ignorant. The real place to be is the public sector, because it was done in the public sector that determines what you can do in the private sector. This is where the heavy lifting is. This is where the laws are made. This is where the policies are made. So whatever business you want to do, whatever university you want to open, what happens inside University of Lagos recently was decided by those who manage the public sector. So this is where the heavy lifting is, and this is where the first 11 must play.
Thank you. So, I think Nigeria has joined the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. What infrastructural project is the government undertaking to support Nigeria's competitiveness? Because there's going to be a lot of competition in the African region now. What are you doing to support infrastructural support now to enhance Nigeria's competitiveness?
Without disrespecting all the questions that have come before and those that may come after, that's a very brilliant question, and it's very important, because Nigeria exists within a committee of nations. Now, there is what we call the Trans-African Highway Route. It's 9 highways connecting the whole of Africa. 9 highways. They are not new roads, mind you, they've existed. But African heads of states had gotten together many years to try and make sure that all those roads are paved. Some of those roads pass through Nigeria. So there's the Lagos to Senegal highway. And that is our own part there is the Badagry Expressway, which takes you to Benin, Togo, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and then Senegal. So each country is building its own part. So I chair a meeting of ministers from all those countries, and we meet to evaluate the progress. So that's why, while we're even waiting for funding to upgrade it, that corridor serves 40 million people who do business. So if you go to Chisco, if you go to those luxurious buses every day, they move Nigerians across this route on a daily basis. But there are border controls that are not efficient. So those are all the things we want to develop. And that's why I recently urged that our government should award the section from Kukumaiko to the border and leave the Lagos State government to continue with the one I took when I was governor, finish that, so that we will have completed our own portion. Then there is the road from Lagos through Ibadan. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is part of that road all the way to Libya, passing through a place called Kanu to Jibia, to Niger Republic. You might not know it. Close to 5,000 trucks leave Nigeria every day, food, from a market called Ilela Market in Sokoto. And about 3,000 trucks leave a market in Kanu, Katsina, Dawano Market, carrying vegetables across Africa. So in specific answer, therefore, we are building these roads to reconnect all our countries together. And when the Ministry of Transportation announced that we were building a rail link of about 12 kilometers into Niger, some Nigerians were not too happy that why are we going to spend money in Niger? It's part of this inter-African free trade area. If you are not competitive, others will take the business. So you will see that we are also expanding our port. The Lekki Seaport that we started under our time when I was in Lagos State has now started construction. Otherwise, will outcompete us. And let me make this point, please. I hope I'm not taking too much time. The Apapa and the Tinkan Island port are only about 10, 11 meters in depth. It's called the draft of the port. That was the fashion in the 70s. The vessels that are now being made are 15, 16 meters in depth because economies of scale. They are carrying more containers. If you have been watching international news, there's a truck called the Evergreen or something, stuck in the Suez Canal for the last 3 days. That truck, that tanker is 600 meters, 60 meters wide, 400 meters long. That's the length of 4 football fields. It is carrying 20,000 containers. So if we don't build a port that has 16 meters depth, they will stop coming to Nigeria.
Yes.
So they will go to other ports in Africa, and all we will get business, which is small business. So our sector will be uncompetitive. The same with the airports. You will see the airport upgrades now. Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Enugu, and I think Kano. The Airbus, the A380, can land in Nigeria. There's nothing wrong with the runway. But because it is a multi-level deck, we can't evacuate the passengers because we don't have the hangar to do so. So that is the upgrade. We will lose those kind of services if we didn't do this upgrade. So in terms of competitiveness, that is what we are doing. Upgrading the buildings so that we can compete.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next question has to do with IT infrastructure. What is the government doing about that? Roads here, rail, and all that. But what about that infrastructure that is driving world economy today?
Another great question. And if you followed the Ministry of, it used to be Ministry of Communication. It was during this administration they changed it to Communication and Digital Economy. It was for a purpose. It was the future that we saw, that there's an economy, not only in communication, but in the future of how we all converse. If you go to the website of that ministry, you will see their broadband rollout plan, which the president launched. And my ministry is involved in that, in executing that. One of the things we're trying to do is to create a uniform rate for those who want to roll out and lay fiber. So myself and the governors are working on this. This Governor Fayemi was in my office 2 days ago. There's something we need to complete so that we harmonize the federal rate with the state rates and bring down the cost of installing the fiber. The money is not in the revenue we collect from those who want to install fiber. The money and the wealth is in the multiple opportunities that fiber and digital communication can create. But in addition to that, we are also now installing trunks in our roads. I spoke about a road from Kano to Maiduguri, the 560-kilometer road. We are almost completing now the duct for all the fiber link across that length. We have just awarded one for the road from Akwanga in Nasarawa all the way to Makodi, about 360 kilometers. So again, we're already investing ahead in this area.
The last question for you. Is there anything your ministry can do to minimize the activities of bandits or kidnappers on our roads? Maybe by the use of IT or whatever. People are worried and want to know whether your ministry can play a role in minimizing these vices on our roads.
Thank you very much. And let me start first by issuing a caveat. I am not in a ministry that is responsible for security, and I must defer to those who head those ministries, defense, internal affairs, Ministry of Police Affairs, and so on and so forth. And we must continue to encourage and support the work that they are doing. But let me say that my own view is that these challenges are momentary and that they will be overcome. But in order for us to get out of it even quicker, there has to be, in my view, very serious intellectual rigor applied to solving the problem. And that might include the use of technology. And for me, instead of focusing on who is doing what, right? Who is doing what? The first question we should ask is, why is A or B or C happening or not happening? Why? A focus less on the who and a lot more on the why. If we can extract the whys, the problem is half solved, because we now know that this is what's causing the problem. I'm working on something privately in terms of a paper, a conversation. And I think that this is a conversation that can also be had at the level of this kind of platform. Because instead of those angry you and me, as I said, we can invoke intellectual rigor into it. One of the causes of conflict is the absence of water. I invite all our participants after this meeting to go and do a Google search. Just search for the subject, water-driven conflicts. And you will see over 50 places in the world where water is causing conflict. Nigeria is not from it. And so if we focus on the why, we can then get the answers on what to do. So labeling this person that doesn't answer the question. Inequality may also come out as some of the whys. So because security or lack of it is not about guns alone. It's about a communal effort. And then all of us who carry all sorts of big chieftaincy and all of that, Bashonu of here, array of this and all of that, we're leaders over communities. Vice Chancellor of University of Lagos. So if there's a problem in University of Lagos, what is Vice Chancellor doing? That's why we hold all those titles. They're not just titles, they're responsibilities. And we can't expect one man to come and man all those places where we are holding very big titles. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the depth and clarity of your answers. I will hand over to the Executive Director, Professor A.A.A. Oshinubi.
Thank you, Dr. Ifere. Please, round of applause for our guest speaker. Please, round of applause for His Excellency, RAJI Fashola, SAN.
Bravo.
Thank you. Before I call finally on the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos for closing, and to especially thank our guest speaker, I will give some appreciation myself, but let me first of all recognize the presence on this platform, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, the University of First Choice and the Nation's Pride, Professor Rahman Bello. Thank you for being here today, sir. And also, I'd like to thank our immediate past DVCs. I recognize you, Professor Folashade Ogunshola, DVC Development Services, and Professor Ogojafo, DVC Management Services. Thank you for being here, sir. Now let me go to my appreciation. Let me also, before the Vice Chancellor come on board, let me also personally thank the guest speaker. You have done more than justice. We really appreciate you, sir. We are not in any way disappointed. If anything, we have been highly elated. We are happy to be associated with you. We love you. We can only pray for more heights, more strength in perfect health. We have learned so much, sir. I now know for many of us, including me, that we have been thinking the best way to go is to go into the private sector. Some of us are already thinking of early retirement before, but from what you have said now, the public sector is where our first level should so be. Thank you so much, sir. Well, let me also the background. This is not the your way of life, your attitude has not just started today. In 2008, I happened to be the head of department of anatomy in LASSO, when you were also the governor of Lagos State. I sent you a test and immediately you responded. It was amazing. As a matter of fact, I called you at 1 a.m. and we were shocked that the governor of Lagos State actually picked the call. I remember that fateful day, sir. My wife was saying, oh my governor, we were shocked. As if we are surprised that governor actually picked the call, and you have not changed. This same time around, when we started to contact you, we sent the message, and very soon we were contacted back. Thank you, and God bless you, sir. We thank the Vice Chancellor. Our Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos is a mover, is a checker, is a visionary. We are so proud of you, sir. Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundipe, you are marvelous. You are an engineer. You are an embodiment of humility. We thank you because you saw us through this. You gave us all the fundamentals. You gave us all the soft landing to connect with our speaker today. Thank you, sir. We thank the Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Familoni. God bless you for coming. And the DAP, who has been instrumental to this as well, that's Professor Shokwe Lose. And the Dean of School of Postgraduate Studies, we thank you as well. The University Registrar and the Immediate Past Registrar, we are seeing you on call. And let me personally thank Dr. Cosmas Maduka. Is on this call. I told him, these people don't really sleep. At 1:05 a.m., he called me this morning. He said, look, Prof, I would like to be on this call. Dr. Cosmas Maduka, CON. Coincidentally, is going to be our next speaker on this special seminar. The ULBS Advisory Board, led by distinguished Professor Alot. Thank you, sir. God bless you. And the University of Lagos Business School Academic Board as well, we thank you. The ULBS team, the admin team led by Pastor Ade Farakon, and all our facilitators. I can see all of you, I can't name many of you. The directors of the University of Lagos, I can see so many of you. But let me also at this point also say that because I've been bombarded with deluge of text messages here that we are keeping the honorable minister to ourselves. No, please, this is a special seminar. As the name implies, it's a special seminar actually meant for our participants. However, we have extended invitation to people at senior managerial level at the University of Lagos. I also this is the point to thank the EMBA and DBA director who has co-moderated this event with me, Dr. Sigmani Fere, Mr. Dimeji Shofowora, the Chief of Staff of the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing. Thank you so much for your support. And Mr. Akim Bello, the Special Advisor, communicate with the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing. Thank you and God bless you. And of course, to all our participants, you have been wonderful. We cannot think of better participants, students for the University of Lagos Business School. We are proud to have you as our participants. Ladies and gentlemen, I now call on the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, the University of First Choice, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundipe, for its finance and closing, and to especially express our appreciation to the guest speaker. The Vice Chancellor, sir.
Thank you, Professor Shinubi. I want to thank the Honorable Minister, His Excellency Fashola, SAN, for this wonderful presentation. I want to say that I am well educated too and well informed with this presentation. And Professor Shinubi, the appreciation, so I align myself with the appreciation that you have put on the table. Once again, I thank everyone of you, wishing you all the best for the weekend. Bye for now.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ULBS.
God bless you.
Honorable Minister.
Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Thank you, Coordinator ULBS.
My honorable minister and ED, thank you. I love you.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
We need
Ciao,
more
ciao.
of this, though. Dr. Ferrer, we need more of this.
Pastor,
Yes.
Pastor.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Nice
you.
having you around.
Thank you.
And for participants, your program continues, eh? Your program for the
Class continue.
I thought they were break.
No holiday.
This is Unilag Business School. There's no dull moment here.
My doctor.
When you complete your program in University of Lagos Business School, you can survive anywhere. Anywhere, I tell you, you can survive.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you for
Thank
this.
you
Very much. Very grateful for the opportunity to have listened to.
And we have time to apologize for all the pressures when you have completed the program.
Dr.
Ife, there won't be any need for apologies. We'll be the ones saying thank you.
You have tried, and sometimes we need to say it. The pressure you have been under.
Thank you. It's a beautiful program.
Doctor, we look forward to the day we'll come and give a talk like this to the university as well.
You are the first
the pioneer group.
Of the, it's your business school.
We will
expect more of this to happen.
I wish I can enroll and become an alumnus.
You'll have to invite us to, by the grace of God.
I want to be an alumnus of University of Lagos Business School. I want to be. I will register for one program. I don't know which one now. I must write ULBS against my name as a graduate of ULBS. So, Edie.
Yeah.
I think we can sign off so that they can have some rest.
Yes.
And move on to the next program.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody. God
Thank
bless.
you. Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Edie, sir.
What kind of question is that?
Thank you, Professor Shinubi.
You let me there's no dull moment. You better move to your next class.
Do you have class today, sir?
Yes, there's class today.
No dull moment in ULBS. As you are eating. That's our eating.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, too.
Thank you.
Enjoy your classes.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much. Well done to the whole team.